Hello, everyone. It's Blaze, and welcome back to another reaction to a TGS anime video. Last time we did Merrick versus Kaiba, and to see if Kaiba actually could have won. And yeah, Kaiba could have won so many times. Spoiler for that video. Haha. But still, I'm excited to see where this is because apparently, could the Lancers defeat Zarc, the main villain of Arc 5? Now, I did a ranking of all the villains, and I did not like Zark. Like his, in fact, Art 5 is usually one it's considered one of the, if not the worst Yu-Gi-Oh series because of how terrible the story is getting after season 1. But still, I'm excited to see what happens here, and could any of the Lancers beat Zark before Reiji or not Reiji, whatever her name was, the basically the original counterpart of Zuzu. But still, without delay, let's just start this thing.
Zarc versus everyone. Asta, Sora, Kite, Shun, Jack, Gong, Crow, Sawatari, Leo, Reggie, and finally Rayra /
That's
Ray
what her name
all
is.
take on
Ray.
Zarc in his fused form. If Zarc wins the duel, he'll destroy the entire world. So it's really important that if anybody's about to lose, somebody else needs to jump into the duel to make sure that duel doesn't end. However, every time they jump into a duel, they take 2,000 damage as an intrusion penalty. Spoilers, Zarc beats everyone, except for his final opponents. So my question then
Which is
becomes,
BS in my opinion.
despite all these high caliber characters being involved in this duel, the length of the duel in this hype train, really? Could nobody get the win on Zarc? Well,
I feel like someone could have.
How insanely protected and how many bloody effects he's got on the field, I'm not surprised he didn't lose, to be honest with you. However, it's important to be thorough, so we're going to analyze the entire duel and see if anyone could have won the duel a little bit earlier. Before we jump into the duel, I just want to remind everyone, today's video is sponsored. So without further ado, let's jump into this really long duel.
Yeah, this is a 50-minute one, so we're going to be at this for an hour.
And Zarc goes first.
At least.
His opening hand consists of Supreme King Gate 0, Supreme King Gate Infinity, Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm, another copy of Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm, and Supreme Rage. Zarc places his Scale 0, Supreme King Gate 0, and Scale 13, Supreme King Gate
I really do
Infinity
like the pendulum system. It was
pendulum
broken,
zones.
but still
Now,
interesting.
turn, while these monsters are in his pendulum zones, Zarc can pendulum summon as many monsters as he wants from his hand or face up from his extra deck if they have levels between these scales. So essentially monsters from level 1 to level 12.
So every
Basically
monster.
everything. Zarc immediately initiates a pendulum summon. He brings out the 2 Supreme King Dragon Dark Worms in his hand.
XC
Zarc
summon.
ends his turn here.
Really?
With the field that Zarc has built right now, there's actually a lot of stuff going on, and the opponents won't be any the wiser of what's happening because Zarc doesn't explain what anything does. So to keep you guys in the light, know what's going on, this is what Zarc has on the field at the moment. Gate 0's pendulum effect is it reduces any.
You were just showing his card, his English card. Why are you now changing it to the Japanese card art? I don't know, that just feels a little weird. You literally are adding yourself an extra image for no reason, in my opinion, but whatever.
The damage Zarc would take to 0, but while Zarc controls a monster, he cannot perform a pendulum summon. Gate Infinity's pendulum effect increases Zarc's life points by the amount Zarc would have taken if he would have taken damage. But if Supreme King Gate 0 isn't in the other pendulum zone, this card destroys itself. Finally, Dark Worm's monster effect is that if it's targeted for an attack while another Supreme King monster is on the field, it can negate the attack.
Oh, nice.
Simplified, Zarc can't take any damage. Any damage he would have taken instead increases his life points. His Dark Worms can't be attacked while there's another Supreme King monster on the field, so they just can't be attacked. And the worst thing of them all, the opponents don't know any of these effects, which is going to be a running theme for this duel. Basically, it's all about learning Zarc's entire deck and every single card that he has, which is funny because Pendulum Monsters have like 2 paragraphs on every single one of the cards.
Pretty much.
So it's
it
a
sucks.
lot for the protagonists to learn, and yeah, it's going to be a long learning process for them. So, with that all out the way,
I wish I could share that.
Turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Destiny Hero Drill Dark, Destiny Hero Decider, Polymerization, D-Soul Burst, D-Hypernova, and a mysterious card. Asta immediately activates Polymerization. He fuses his core
Desperata.
Dark with Decider to make Destiny Hero Dystopia.
Oh,
When
Dystopia, not
summoned, its
Desperata.
effect activates, letting Asta choose one of the materials used for its summon and then deal its attack as damage. Asta chooses Decider, intending to deal 1600 damage to Zarc. However, Zarc reveals his Pendulum Monster's effects. Gate 0 negates all damage he takes, while Gate Infinity instead increases his life points by the damage he would have taken. Zarc instead gains 1600 life points.
Oof.
Asta moves into his battle phase and attempts to attack one of the Dark Worms.
Okay, so this is my understanding. Shouldn't everyone get a turn before you start attacking? Because every other time we've had like tag duels or battle royals, I'm pretty sure it was everyone needed to take a turn first before you start attacking. I could have sworn that's how it was, unless the rules are changed for this one, but whatever.
However, Zarc reveals the effect of Dark Worm, which negates any attack as long as there's another Supreme King monster on the field. Dystopia's attack is negated. Asta moves into his main phase 2 and activates his D-Soul Burst. Due to this card's effect, he can halve the attack of a Destiny Hero monster he controls to inflict damage to both himself and the opponent.
You're an idiot.
The attack it lost. He halves Dystopia's attack. Zarc takes no damage and instead gains 1400 life points.
Why did you increase
Asta,
his life?
on the other hand, takes the first damage of the duel. Now, at first, this might seem like a completely ridiculous play. We're making
Agreed.
the opponent stronger, us weaker, and we've just halved the attack of our monster on the field. What are we doing? Well, our monster has another effect. You see, Dystopia's second ability is, if its stats change, it can destroy a card on the field. Asta chooses to destroy one of the 2 Dark Worms.
Why not?
In order to get rid of the negate attack effect from the field.
What? Get rid of the pendulums. Like, those are actually the bigger problem, in my opinion. Yeah, the no attack one, yeah, that sucks, but you can easily destroy him with a card effect. Alistair, like, you easily could have done one of the pendulum monsters, because if one's destroyed, the other has to follow it. That's actually really stupid play. That's a massive misplay.
And just a small little mistake. Decider that was used for the fusion material of Dystopia, that had an ability in the graveyard that when Asta would have taken damage, he could actually negate that damage and then add it back to his hand. So rather than take that damage from his own card,
another bad effect,
the damage, then return the monster. And I think he still would have been able to destroy a card as well. So that was an option. Never actually happened. Would it have made a difference? Not really, but I don't know. He could have done it. Asta
I would have done it.
The Hypernova face down and ends his turn. Did Asta have any alternative monsters he could have gone into when he fused? No. Asta, throughout Arc 5, only played 2 fusion monsters, Dystopia and Dusktopia. Dusktopia requires Dystopia to be summoned, so literally there was nothing else he could have gone into. While I have no doubt he probably played more fusion monsters, we never see them, so I've got nothing else to sort of compare it to, and as you know, legacy characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 play completely different decks to their original counterparts.
Which kind of sucks, but whatever.
Never have the same cards, so it's unlikely he had any of his original Destiny heroes from the timeline we know him from. And of course, the better question you should be asking, why did Asta destroy a Dark Worm? Why not destroy one of the Pendulum Scales? Well, I think he maybe thought that Sora was going to go a bit more on the attack, maybe get rid of the rest of his life points. That doesn't happen. But yes, getting rid of one of the Pendulum Scales would have been the better choice.
Agreed.
Especially since if 0 is destroyed, Infinity goes with it. Obviously, Asta doesn't know this, so that's probably why he did.
I still would have at least destroyed one of them, because so basically, what's somebody trying to say? Like, oh, I could destroy 0 probably, so that way he still is dealt damage by like effects, or because let me read if okay, so yeah, it would basically be every time opponent's monster is dealt damage, basically, or deals damage to him, that's when his effect activated. But burn damage, that's different. Like, if he destroyed 0, plus if 0 was gone, Infinity would have to leave as well. Like, I don't know what the hell Asta was thinking. It's just so stupid.
He didn't think to destroy one of the pendulum scales, which would have got rid of both of the pendulum scales. However, in my personal opinion, getting rid of a mechanic off the field that is literally going to bring back monsters every single turn and is making it so that you don't take any damage, that felt like the much smarter move to make. So I think it was a misplay personally from Asta right off the bat.
Extremely
it's
bad.
Sora's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Edge Imp Fright for Lloyd, Fright for Sanctuary, Fright for Fusion, Fright for Mad Parade, and 2 mysterious cards. Sora starts by activating his Fright for Sanctuary. Now, by discarding 1 card in his hand and sending 2 Fright for Fusions from his extra deck to the grave, he can treat all fusion monsters he controls as Fright for monsters. He discards Edge Imp Fright for Lloyd and sends Fright for Bear and Fright for Tiger from his extra deck to the grave. Now, with 3 Fright for monsters in his grave, he activates his Fright for Fusion spell, which lets him summon a Fright for Fusion monster using his field and grave. He banishes Fright for Lloyd, which is treated as a Fright for monster in the grave, along with Fright for Bear and Fright for Tiger to summon Fright for Chimera.
Still disturbing.
Sora enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys the final Supreme King Darkworm. Zarc gains the damage he would have taken. Now, a little bit of stuff happens here. Zarc tells Sora, since Pendulum monsters go to the extra deck face up when they are destroyed, Chimera's effect to steal the monster from the grave doesn't work. Sora replies by saying, I know, I'm just trying to mirror something that happened between me and Yuya back in the past. Do you remember?
Why?
Do you remember Yuya? You're inside of him. Can you come out?
Yeah, that's why.
From this stasis. It doesn't work, basically. However, the question then becomes, oh, did Sora throw this turn just so he could reach out to Yuya stuck inside of Zarc?
I don't see it.
No, actually. The play that Sora did was pretty much the only play he had available to him. This is because there were no alternative fusions he could have gone into, since all of the Fright for fusions require either a specific Edge Imp monster or sometimes a specific Fluffle monster. Since there was nothing really else he could have gone for apart from Fright for Sabretooth, and that wouldn't really made a big difference, that's all we really had. Sora sets his Fright for Mad Parade face down.
I do wonder what's
and
in
ends
those
his
Fright for
turn.
monsters.
It's back to Zarc, and he draws Astrograph Sorcerer. Since he controls no monsters, Zarc immediately initiates a Pendulum Summon. He brings back the 2 Darkworms that are face up in his extra deck. Since a monster was special summoned, while Asta controls a Destiny Hero monster, Asta activates his trap, the Hypernova. This destroys all monsters the opponent controls that were special summoned this turn. However, that's not all. Since an effect that would destroy a card was activated while Sora controls a Fright for monster, he can activate his Fright for Mad Parade, which destroys all cards the opponent controls and then deals 500 damage for each one destroyed.
Neat.
Fright for Mad Parade destroys the 2 Darkworms along with Zero and Infinity. Since
Congrats
4
you
cards
two.
were destroyed, Zarc takes 2,000 damage. This big victory is short-lived, because Zarc activates the effect of his Astrograph Sorcerer in his hand. Since one of his cards was destroyed, Astrograph summons itself to the field. It then returns all destroyed cards back to the zones they were in before being destroyed.
That's BS.
Zarc's entire field is returned. However, he's not done, as he activates the second effect of Astrograph Sorcerer, which by tributing itself and then banishing Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon, Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, and Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon from his deck, extra deck, field, and or grave, he can perform an integration summon.
Or Unity.
Fuse, Sync, Xyz pens these 4-dimensional dragons together, along with himself, to summon the ultimate boss monster, Supreme King Dragon Zarc. Now,
Really
this
should have been a
card
rank
has
13.
a lot of effects. I'm going to cover them all now so you know what it can and
Please
can't deal
do.
with. Pretty much, it can deal with everything. Zarc is treated as a
Jesus
fusion,
Christ, that's a lot of
synchro,
text.
Xyz, and pendulum monster. This means that its level is also classed as its rank. If this card is special summoned, you can destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible, then inflict damage equal to the total attack of the destroyed monsters. However, this card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. While there are Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters all banished in the graveyard, this card cannot be destroyed and is unaffected by card effects.
How do they
that
get
would
rid
make
of
it
them?
leave the field. All monsters you control are unaffected
Oh, I just realized it's at in any graveyard. Oh, that's going to be a problem to deal with. Holy crap! They are sort of screwed on that because each one of them has one of those three in their graveyards at all times. So how they're going to deal with that is truly a mystery.
By fusion, synchro, and Xyz monster effects. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon up to 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters from your extra deck in defense. If an opponent adds a card to their hand outside of their draw phase, destroy it. Yep, that's right, this is a very custom card, and it's only going to get worse a little bit later because there are 4 Supreme King Dimensional Dragons in his extra deck that are always live and are waiting for the corresponding summoning mechanic to be summoned to the field so they can summon themselves to the field. We'll get to that when we get to it, but for now, since Zarc summoned Zarc, its effect activates. It destroys all of Asta and Sora's monsters and then deals damage equal to their combined attack.
Oof.
Asta and Sora lose the duel. Luckily though, since Kite and Shun interrupted the duel, the world is not destroyed. The duel continues.
They should have really hacked
Shun's
that.
turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Raid Raptor.
Like what I mean, like they could have hacked the dual disc so they didn't get the stupid penalty every time, but I don't think they could have done that, but it's whatever, I guess.
King Lanius, Raid Raptor, Vanishing Lanius, Raid Raptor, Fuzzy Lanius, Overlay Burst Armor, Rank Up Magic Devotion Force, and Rank Up Magic Limit Over Force. Shun starts by summoning his King Lanius. He uses its effect to summon another level 4 or lower Raid Raptor monster in his hand. He summons Vanishing Lanius. With Vanishing Lanius on the field, Fuzzy Lanius is allowed to special summon itself from his hand. With 3 level 4 monsters, he overlays all of them to Xyz summon his rank 4 Raid Raptor Rise Falcon. And here is where we get the new main gimmick of the Zarc deck. Basically, in Zarc's extra deck, there are 4 Supreme King Dimensional Dragons. Whenever the opponent summons a monster...
So, the Odd Eyes is in the extra deck? How does that make sense? Like, shouldn't it be in the regular deck like every other one's? Huh.
Of one of the corresponding summoning mechanics, that monster is allowed to tribute 2 Supreme King monsters from his side of the field to summon themselves to the field. And in the case of the Xyz monster, it can overlay them both. I don't know why I'm telling you this now, because I'm about to tell you it right now. Since an Xyz monster was summoned, Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion's effect activates in the extra deck. It initiates an Xyz summon. It overlays the 2 level 4 Dark Worms to summon itself. Dark Rebellion's effect is monsters the opponent controls cannot target Xyz monsters for attacks except this one. If this card battles during damage calculation, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, target the opponent's battling monster, change its attack to 0, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's lost attack until the end of the turn. During either player's turn, you can return this card to the extra deck, special summon 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters from your grave, and if you do, the attack of all Xyz monsters your opponent controls becomes 0. With all that in mind,
that is a little
Shun
broken.
activates the effect of his Rise Falcon by detaching one of its overlay materials. Now it can increase its attack by the combined attack of all special summon monsters the opponent controls. With a whopping 6,600 attack, Shun attempts to destroy Zarc in battle. However, Zarc reveals Dark Rebellion's effect, which prevents any other Xyz monster he controls from being attacked. So, Shun instead attacks Dark Rebellion. Rebellion's second effect activates. When it battles by detaching one of its materials, the attacking monster's attack is reduced to 0, and then it gains the lost attack. If this attack is successful, Shun will lose the duel. However, luckily, since Rise Falcon would be destroyed by this battle, Shun activates his quick play spell, Overlay Burst Armor. By detaching all the overlay materials from his monster, he can prevent its destruction and any battle damage. Shun and Rise Falcon survive. Shun ends his turn by setting Rank Up Magic Devotion Force and Rank Up Magic Limit Over Force face down. Could Shun have done anything different during this turn?
I don't think so.
Not really. The only other Xyz monster we could have gone into was Force Strix. That would have let him add another Raid Raptor monster from his deck to his hand. But the problem is he doesn't have any like rank up cards that he can use this turn to go on the offensive. So no, not really. And whatever monster he would have added before Strix wouldn't have let him get any kind of rank up card. So this
was the best he
we're
could
gonna
do.
get this turn, unfortunately. It's Kite's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of 2 copies of Cypher Wing, Double Exposure, Rank Up Magic Limit Over Force, Rank Up Gravity, and a mysterious card. Kite summons his Cypher Wing to the field. Since the Cypher Wing is on the field, he can special summon Cypher Wing in his hand. Next, he activates his continuous spell, Double Exposure. Now, once per turn, during either player's turn, he can target 2 level 6 or lower monsters on the field with the same name. Their levels become double. And or target 1 monster on the field, then target 1 other monster on the same controller's field. The first target's name becomes the same as the second target's.
What?
Kite uses the first effect to double the levels of Cypher Wing. Now, with 2 level 8 monsters, he overlays them both to Xyz summon his rank 8 Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon. He uses its effect by detaching one of its materials to take control of a monster the opponent controls. And when he does, its name and stats become the same as this monster's. However, it can't attack directly, and its effects are negated. Kite tries to take Dark Rebellion. However, Zarc reveals that while Supreme King Dragon Zarc is on the field, all his monsters are immune to Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monster effects.
Oof.
Kite, knowing he can't win in a battle with Rebellion, ends his turn by setting Rank Up Magic Limit Over Force, Rank Up Gravity, and a mysterious card. It's back to Zarc, and he draws Supreme Face Off. Zarc moves straight into his battle phase and orders Dark Rebellion to attack Cypher Dragon. He uses its effect by detaching its last material to boost its attack and then reduce the opponent's attack. In response, Shun activates his rank up magic Devotion Force. This card can only be activated when an opponent's monster declares an attack. He can target 1 Xyz monster he controls, then summon 1 new Xyz monster using it as a material that is 1 rank higher. Then, the newly summoned monster becomes the new attack target. Rise Falcon ranks up into the rank 5 Raid Raptor Blaze Falcon. Next, since a monster was summoned via the effect of a rank up magic card, Kite activates his set
so specific.
Rank Up Magic Limit Over Force. By paying half his life points, he too can target an Xyz monster he controls and then summon an Xyz monster that is 1 rank higher using it as a material. As well, the summoned monster's attack is times by the number of rank up magic spells that have been activated during the duel until the end of the turn. Cypher Dragon is ranked up into the rank 9 Neo Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, and its attack is multiplied by 2 since 2 rank ups have been used so far in the duel. Hilariously, Shay also activates his own rank up magic limit over.
So specific.
He halves his own life
They're pretty
points and ranks up Blaze Falcon into the rank 6 Raid Raptor Revolution Falcon. Its attack is tripled since 3 rank ups have been used in the duel now. And we're still not done. Kite activates his
How much
set
longer?
continuous trap, rank up Gravity. Now, while he controls an Xyz monster, special summon with a rank up magic spell card, monsters
So
the opponent
specific.
controls can only attack those monsters. Also, monsters the opponent controls that do not attack are banished at the end of the battle phase. If Kite doesn't control an Xyz monster with a rank up magic spell, however, this card destroys itself. And if it does this during the battle phase immediately ends. The plan is solid on paper and is a genuinely good way of getting rid of Zarc. Zarc can't protect itself with any of its abilities from spells and traps, as long as there isn't a Fusion Synchro and Xyz monster in both graveyards. So at the moment, this could work.
Oh, what's he laughing about? Oh no, not good. Not good. This does not seem good.
Just kidding. Zarc activates the last effect of his Dark Rebellion, which lets it bounce itself back to the extra deck in order to summon 2 Supreme King Dragon monsters in his grave. And when he does, the attack of all Xyz monsters the opponent controls are reduced to 0. If you wondered, by the way, why the Dark Worms were in the graveyard and not face up in the extra deck, because you thought, wait, I thought Pendulum monsters don't go to the grave, they go face up to the extra deck. Well, that only applies if they leave from the field. If they are sent from an Xyz material, it's not actually classed as being sent from the field, so they go to the grave.
I figured that one.
Pendulums are wacky, alright? I'm not going to get into that whole kettle of fish, but
Agreed.
The more
They
you
are
know.
so
On
crazy.
the brink of defeat, Kite and Shun both grab an action card to try and keep themselves in the duel. However, Zarc reveals the other effect of Supreme King Dragon Zarc, which is that if a card is added from outside of the draw phase, well, they're destroyed.
Oof.
With nothing left to help them, Zarc's Dark Worms attack and destroy both of Kite and Shun's monsters, eliminating them from the duel. Luckily, since Jack Atlas and Gong Strong intervened in the duel continues.
You got this, Gong.
It's Jack's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Dark Resonator, Red Gargoyle, Brutal Red, Dark Resonator, Net Resonator, and Vision Synchro. Since Jack controls no monsters, he can special summon Red Gargoyle straight to the field. He then summons his Red Resonator. Since a red monster was summoned to the field while Red Gargoyle was on the field, its effect activates. It doubles the level of the summoned monster. With a level 4 non-tuner and a level 4 tuner, he tunes them together to synchro summon his very soul, Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. Since a synchro summon occurred, Zarc activates the effect of his Supreme King Dragon Clear Wing in his extra deck. He tributes his 2 Supreme King Dark Worms to synchro summon it to the field. Now, Clearwing's effect is, if this card is special summoned, you can make as many face-up monsters your opponent currently controls as possible have their effects negated, and if you do, destroy them. Monsters your opponent controls cannot target synchro monsters for attacks, except this one. Once per turn, when an attack is declared involving this card and an opponent's monster, you can target that opponent's monster, negate the attack, and if you do, destroy that target.
Oh boy,
And if
so
you
specific
do that,
again.
inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster. During either player's turn, you can return this card to the extra deck, special summon 2 Supreme King Dragon Pendulum monsters from your extra deck, and if you do, the attackable synchro monsters your opponent currently controls becomes 0. And so, on Clearwing's summon, its effect activates, attempting to negate the effects of all the opponent's monsters and then destroy them. However, Jack responds with his Brutal Red monster in hand, which, by discarding it when exactly one red monster he controls would be destroyed by battle or card effect until the end of the turn. That monster cannot be destroyed by battle.
Is that a real
or card
card?
effects.
I don't know if
and
that's a real
gains
card.
1000
I've never seen
attack.
that one before.
Scarlight survives and gains 1000 attack points. Jack moves into his battle phase and uses Scarlight to attack Clearwing. Clearwing's second effect kicks in. Since a monster attacked it, it negates the attack and then destroys the opponent's monster and deals damage to the opponent equal to the destroyed monster's attack. Luckily, Scarlight isn't destroyed thanks to Brutal Red's protection. However, the attack is prevented. Jack ends his turn by setting Vision Synchro face down. It's Gong's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists
I really love the
of
Super Heavy Samurais. They're
Battle
so
Ball,
amazing.
Super Heavy Samurai Hexagon, Super Heavy Samurai Blue Brawler, Super Heavy Samurai Swordsman, Super Heavy Samurai Big Benkai, and Super Heavy Samurai War Chief Heavy Strong.
Ooh,
Gong
that's a
summons
card I've
his
never seen
Battle
before.
Ball to the field. He then special summons Hexagon thanks to its effects. He tunes his level 6 non-tuner with his level 2 tuner to synchro summon Super Heavy Samurai Swordsmith in defense. Upon summon, its effect activates, letting him summon as many Super Heavy Samurai monsters in his hand as possible. He
Ooh,
summons
cool.
Blue Brawler, Swordsman, and Big Benkai all in defense. Unable to attack over Clearwing due to its effect, Gong ends his turn. Now, Gong has a few monsters on the field. Do they have any abilities that we don't know about? Well, Blue Brawler can't be destroyed by battle. Swordsman makes any monster it battles lose its attack after. Big Benkai can attack in defense. So,
nothing
they're
much.
right abilities, but nothing great.
What about the other one?
Question 2 then becomes, could Gong have gone into any different synchro monsters to go more on the offensive here? I know it's not his style, but still. Not really. The only other card he could have gone for was Super Heavy Samurai Ninja Sarutobi, which can destroy a spell or trap that the opponent controls, as long as there are no spells or traps in his grave. However, I don't think he could have used this to destroy one of Zarc's Pendulum monsters, because all the graveyards are shared, and there are definitely spells and traps in his graveyard. So
Oh no.
I think that's off limit for him.
That
It's
sucks.
Zarc's turn, and he draws Supreme Presence. He activates it straight away, equipping it to his Clearwing. Now, while equipped to a monster, any effect the equipped monster uses that would target exactly one monster instead becomes all monsters the opponent controls.
Oh boy.
Zarc moves into his battle phase and orders Clearwing to attack Big Benkai. Since Clearwing is involved in a battle, he activates its effect to negate its own attack. However, instead of destroying just Big Benkai, Supreme Presence changes the destruction to be all the opponent's monsters. Luckily, Gong activates the effect of his Super Heavy Samurai Ward Chief Heavy Strong in his hands, since a monster he controls will be destroyed by a
That's
card
why he didn't
effect.
summon it.
He can target one monster on the field and then tribute one Super Heavy Samurai monster he controls to special summon it. The battle phase immediately comes to an end, and the targeted monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn. Gong targets Jack's Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend to protect it from Zarc's destruction. The battle phase ends, however, everything other than these two monsters are destroyed.
Oof.
Jack and Gong each take damage equal to the total attack of the monsters destroyed. Luckily, Super Heavy Samurai monsters don't have much attack, so they only take 1000 damage. Zarc ends his turn. It's Jack's turn, and he draws Red Sprinter. He activates his set trap, Vision Synchro, which lets him synchro summon using monsters in his hand. However, whatever he summons is returned to the extra deck at the end of the turn.
Oh,
He tunes his
sounds a
level
little
4
weird.
non-tuner Red Sprinter with his two level 3 tuners, Dark Resonator and Net Resonator, in order to double tune his level 10 synchro monster, Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend. Since Net Resonator was used for its synchro summon, its effect prevents Jack from taking any effect damage while he controls the summoned monster. Gong adds to this protection
that's not really a
by
good one.
activating the quick effect of Heavy Strong. Now, by targeting two cards on the field, he can make them unable to be destroyed this turn. He targets Jack's Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend and Jack's Tyrant Red Dragon Archfiend. Jack enters his battle phase and attacks Clearwing with Scarlight. Clearwing's effect activates, negating the attack and then destroying all the opponent's monsters. Scarlight and Tyrant are not destroyed thanks to Heavy Strong, however Heavy Strong is destroyed.
Oh man, that
Gong
sucks.
takes the total attack of the destroyed monsters as damage. Gong is eliminated from the duel.
No,
With
Gong!
the way cleared, Jack continues his attack. He attacks with Tyrant Dragon next, targeting Clearwing. The attack is successful. Clearwing is destroyed.
Hooray!
Zero and Infinity nullify and instead increase Zarc's life points
Damn
by the
it.
damage he would have taken. As Jack's turn comes to an end, Vision Synchro returns Tyrant Dragon back to the extra deck.
Oof.
So, I know what you're thinking. After all of that, what has Jack really achieved here?
Nothing.
Well, with Clearwing off of the field, that does mean that Zarc can't summon his two Dark Worms anymore because he can't Pendulum Summon while he controls a monster because he's got Zarc on the field. Clearwing was one of the ways he could have got those two Zarc Worms back, and he can't do that anymore. So, essentially, Zarc's extra deck is out of commission.
Hooray.
For now.
Dang
It's Zarc's turn, and he draws Supreme Disdain. Zarc moves straight into his battle phase and attacks and destroys Scarlight Dragon. Jack is eliminated.
Oof.
Before the world would be destroyed, Sawatari and Crow Hogan intrude on the duel. So, the duel continues.
Oh, he calls them by their Japanese name. That's right.
And unfortunately, everything Jack and Gong achieved is undone, as the next effect of Zarc is revealed. Since it destroyed a monster by battle, it summons two Supreme King Dragons from his extra deck. He summons the two Dark Worms back to the field into defense. Zarc sets Supreme Rage, Supreme Disdain, and Face Off Face Down, and ends his turn. It's Crow's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Blackwing Kochi the Daybreak, Blackwing Gladius the Midnight Sun, Black Feather Illusion, Black Feather Reversal, and two mysterious cards. Crow summons his Kochi the Daybreak to the field. Since there are only Blackwing monsters on his side of the field, he can special summon Gladius the Midnight Sun from his hand straight to the field. He tunes his level 3 non-tuner with his level 4 tuner to synchro summon Assault Blackwing Raikiri the Rain Shower. Since a synchro summon occurred, Zarc tributes his two Dark Worms to summon Supreme King Dragon Clearwing from his graveyard, which is the only one of the extra deck monsters that can do that, so it's lucky that this one went to the grave.
Agreed.
On its summon, its
Wait,
effect
no, I don't
activates,
agree. I don't
negating
want
the
it in
effects of
there.
all monsters the opponent controls and then destroys them. However, Crow activates his Black Feather Illusion, since a Blackwing Synchro monster was destroyed. This lets him summon it back to the field with its effects negated. Crow moves into his battle phase and attacks Clearwing. Clearwing uses its battle effect to negate the attack and then destroy the attacking monster. Raikiri is destroyed. However, before Crow can take any damage, he activates Black Feather Reversal. It has the effect, if a monster battles or when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to a player, make the damage from that battle or effect 0. Then special summon one Blackwing Synchro monster from the extra deck with the same attack as the original damage.
Oh,
no
pretty
battle
neat.
damage occurs, and since Crow would have taken 2600 damage, he summons his 2600 attack, Assault Blackwing Chidori the Rain Sprinkler.
He is so lucky I was
Chidori's effect
26.
allows it to gain 300 attack for each Blackwing monster in the grave. Since there are 3, it gains 900 attack. Crow attacks again with it, this time successfully destroying Clearwing. The effect of Black Feather Illusion in the graveyard activates. Since a Blackwing monster attacked, this card can banish itself in the grave and then negate the effects of all spell cards the opponent controls until the end of the damage step. 0 and Infinity are negated. Zarc takes a bit of damage for once.
Finally.
However, don't let this little win get to your head too quickly.
Damn it.
Because Zarc, well, he won't give you an inch. Zarc, not wanting to give the good guys even a second's worth of a win, activates his set continuous trap, Supreme Face-Off. Now, with this,
Didn't we have that at the
continuous
beginning
card
of the
on
duel?
field,
Jeez.
once per turn during the opponent's battle phase, if Zarc controls a Supreme King monster, he can target one monster the opponent controls and force it to attack, even if it has already attacked. Also, once per turn, if a Supreme King monster battles, or when a card or effect is activated that would destroy a Supreme King card you control, that Supreme King card cannot be destroyed by that battle or effect. During your opponent's battle phase, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard. All monsters your opponent controls that did not attack this turn must attack. You choose the attack targets for those attacks. And so, Chidori is forced to attack Supreme King Dragon Zarc. It is destroyed.
Oof.
Since Supreme King Dragon Zarc destroyed a monster by battle, it summons back the 2 Dark Worms from his extra deck into defense. Since Chidori was destroyed, its effect special summons a Winged Beast Synchro monster in the grave. He brings back Raikiri. Crow can't attack one of the Dark Worms because the Dark Worms have the ability that they can negate an attack if there's another Supreme King monster on the field. So, with that, Crow moves into his main phase 2 and activates Raikiri's effect to destroy cards equal to the number of Blackwing monsters he controls. He attempts to destroy Face-Off. However, Face-Off protects itself through its effect. Crow ends his turn. Now, a little talk from me personally here. This is one of those duels where there's so much going on. I'm
surprised you even did this one.
To be aware of. There's and it's all Pendulum monsters. They got paragraphs worth of effects and stuff. I feel like all I'm doing is just reading effects of everything, but it's so crucial to the duel, so you know what's going on, kind of thing. And then
You know, I'm surprised he actually even did this one with how long this duel takes. And Arc 5, to my knowledge, he barely does it because of this exact reason. Because of how many paragraphs of text there are and how hyper-specific some of them are, too. Like, some are so hyper-specific for really no reason, to be honest. But Arc 5 is still a decent season, but compared to every other ones, it's hot garbage, in my opinion. Like, it's clearly the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Series on so many levels.
Stuff's happening, and more stuff's happening, more stuff's happening. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff happening. And a lot more is about to happen. It's Sawatari's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Abyss Actor Evil Heel, Abyss Actor Funk Comedian, Abyss Actor Superstar, Abyss Actor Wild Hope, Abyss Actor Leading Lady, and Abyss Script Abysstainment. Sawatari places his Scale 1 Evil Heel and Scale 8 Funk Comedian into his Pendulum Zone.
So 2 through
He
7.
Pendulum summons his Superstar, Wild Hope, and Leading Lady from his hand straight to the field. Since a Pendulum summon occurred, the effect of Supreme King Odd Eyes activates in Zarc's extra deck. He tributes his 2 Dark Worms to summon it to the field. This monster's effect is...
Oh no.
Monsters the opponent controls cannot target Pendulum monsters for attacks except this one. Each turn, the first Pendulum card or cards on the field that will be destroyed by a battle or card effect are not destroyed. Any battle damage your opponent takes from attacks involving Pendulum monsters is doubled. During either player's turn, you can return this card to the extra deck face up, special summon 2 other Supreme King Dragon Pendulum monsters from your extra deck, and if you do, the attack of all face up monsters your opponent currently controls becomes 0. Sawatari activates his Superstar's effect, which lets him add an Abyss Script spell from his deck. He adds Abyss Script, Rise of the Abyss King. Since a card was added from outside the draw phase, it is immediately destroyed due to Zarc's effect. Sawatari activates his continuous spell, Abyss Script, Abyss-tainment. He uses its effect. By tributing an Abyss actor, he can set an Abyss Script spell in his grave onto his field. He tributes
that's actually
his
pretty
leading
good.
lady to set Rise of the Abyss King in the grave. Sawatari activates his Rise of the Abyss King. With its effect, he can target face-up cards on the field up to the number of attack position Abyss Actor monsters with different names he controls and then destroy them. And since he controls a level 7 or higher Abyss Actor monster, Zarc cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. Meaning, Zarc's trap card can't protect his cards from being destroyed. And so, Sawatari targets Zarc and Odd Eyes to be destroyed. However, of course, Zarc's Odd Eyes reveals its ability to prevent the first destruction of any pendulum card on the field. Sawatari, unfazed, attempts to do this a second time. He uses Abyss Entertainment, tributes his Wild Hope, to set Rise of the Abyss King back face down. He activates it again, attempting to destroy Zarc. At this point in the duel, it really does seem like the good guys have gotten the upper hand and are finally
it's not gonna happen.
Get rid of Zarc for the first time in the entire duel. Everything can't be activated in response. There's no more protections to keep Zarc alive that they know of. So, is it finally gonna work? No. Zarc reveals the final super secret effect of Supreme King Dragon Zarc. Since there are Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters in the opponent's grave and or banish zone, this card cannot be destroyed and is unaffected by effects that would remove it from the field. So as long as all 3 summoning mechanics are in their graveyards,
what if it's
banished,
a link?
This monster is incapable of being removed from the field.
Oopsie.
That's a tough order. You're literally going to have to get rid of the entire graveyard and all the banished cards back into your deck or do something. How are they going to do this? We'll get to that in a minute. Zarc activates the last effect of his Supreme Face-Off. He sends it to the grave to force all monsters the opponent controls to attack it. Raikiri and Superstar both attack into Zarc. Both are destroyed and double damage is dealt due to Odd Eyes' effects. Crow and Sawatari are eliminated from the duel. Luckily, Leo Akaba has jumped into the
Seriously?
duel, and I would be amiss not to bring up this fun little dub moment.
Zarc, what?
It's Leo's turn, and he draws.
I don't know, I find that funny.
Consists of Spirit Collapse, End Birds, End Winds, End Flowers, End Moon, and a mysterious
That is
card.
way too
Now, I'm going to
specific.
point it out that the N cards are the natural counter to Zarc. It defeated him long ago, and they're being used now to try and beat him again. It's very lucky that the Professor has all 4 of those cards in his opening hand, I must say.
The plot gave him
Kind
them.
of feels like he stacked the deck,
Agreed.
which is funny because he's lost the duel already. Leo activates his Spirit Collapse. By paying 1,000 life points, he can send a fusion monster from his extra deck to the grave. He sends Master Spirit Tech Force Pendulum Ruler. Why did he send his fusion monster to the graveyard? Everyone's like, is he just making Zarc stronger here? Well, it turns out that the N cards require 3 of each summoning mechanic in the graveyard. That's spoilers for later, but we'll find that out a bit later. The Professor experiences 2 seconds of being the main character before everything goes wrong. Zarc, in response, activates his set Supreme Disdain. This lets him look at Leo's hand and then send cards in his hand to the grave equal to the number of Supreme King cards he controls, and then for every card he sends, the opponent will take 300 damage. He chooses End Birds, End Flowers, End Moon, and End Winds.
Ha! So
Leo
lucky.
is eliminated from the duel without ever getting a chance to play his special cards, and oh my god, that's terrible. I just want to point
So
this
humiliating.
out. That was what we thought the main villain of this show just getting OTK'd. I think that's hilarious. But oh wait, is the world about to end?
Nope. We have Declan.
It's Reggie's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of 2 copies of DD Savant Nicola, DD Savant Schrodinger, DD Savant Dirac, DD Night Owl, and DD Vice Typhon. Reggie places his Scale 2 Schrodinger and Scale 8
Are we ever going to get
Zarc
those 2
into his
cards?
pendulum zones.
Because I don't
He
remember them
pendulum
being
summons
real.
every monster in his hand. He overlays the 2 level 6 Nicholas to Xyz summon DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. He tunes his level 7 non-tuner Typhon with his level 3 tuner Night Owl to synchro summon DDD Gust Hiking Alexander. And finally, he activates the effect of Vice Typhon in his grave, which lets it banish itself and another monster to fuse them both together. He merges Typhon with Night Owl to fusion summon DDD
Jeez, they are
High Genghis.
the DDD monsters
Since
are
there
so amazing.
2 or more DD monsters on the field,
And there's
High
more
King
cards coming out
Alexander's
soon.
Attack doubles. Reggie activates High King Genghis' effect, which lets him negate a spell or trap for as many DD monsters he controls until the standby phase. He negates Zarc's 0 and Infinity. Zarc responds with his Odd Eyes' final effect. He bounces it back to the extra deck and summons 2 Dark Worms to the field. However, as an effect that would summon a monster was activated, Reggie activates Caesar's effect. By detaching one of its materials, he can negate the effect and then add the attack of whatever would have been summoned to itself until the end of the turn.
Sweet.
It gains the attack of one of the Dark Worms that would have been summoned. Reggie then activates the other effect of Caesar. Since its attack increased through its own effect, by detaching its last overlay material, he can give the attack boost to another monster. He gives it to High King Genghis. Reggie moves into his battle phase and attacks Supreme King Dragon Zarc. While unable to be destroyed due to its protection effect, with 0 and Infinity negated, Zarc still takes the damage from the 3
Hooray!
attacks. Reggie ends his turn.
Finally under
As
4,000.
he does, Zarc activates his final set trap, Supreme Rage. Since he took over 2,000 battle damage from a single attack while he controlled Supreme King Dragon Zarc, he can now destroy all monsters he controls other than Zarc. He can then special summon 1 Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom, 1 Supreme King Dragon Clear Wing, 1 Supreme King Dragon
We haven't
Dark
seen
Rebellion,
Starving Venom
and
at all
1
this duel.
Supreme King Dragon Odd Eyes from his extra deck and or graveyard, ignoring their summoning conditions. Then attach 2 Supreme King Dragon Dark Worms from his extra deck and or graveyard to Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion as an Xyz material. Note that monsters special summoned by this effect have their effects negated until the end of the turn. That doesn't really matter because it's the end of the turn right now, so they're going to get their effects back in 3, 2, 1. It's Zarc's turn, and he draws a mysterious card. Zarc moves straight into his battle phase. He orders Clearwing to attack Alexander. He activates its effect to negate its own attack and then destroy the opponent's battling monster, and then deal damage equal to its attack. Since Reggie would take effect damage, he uses his pendulum monster Zarc's effect, which summons itself to the field in defense and then reduces any effect damage to 0. Reggie survives. Zarc next orders Dark Rebellion to attack Caesar. He activates its effect by detaching one of its materials to reduce the opponent's monster's attack and then add the lost attack to itself. Since Reggie would now take battle damage, he activates the pendulum effect of his Schrodinger, which summons itself
Man,
to
those
the
two are
field and then
broken.
reduces
I like
battle
it.
damage to 0. Reggie survives again. Zarc activates his Starving Venom's effect, which negates and then copies a monster's effect on the field to itself. He steals
Ew, that
Alexander's
was
effect.
disturbing.
Since Starving Venom is now on the field with 2 other DD monsters, its attack doubles. Starving Venom attacks and destroys Genghis. Before Reggie can take the damage, he uses the monster effect of Schrodinger, which also negates battle damage once per turn. Zarc orders Eyes to attack and destroy Dirac. It's destroyed, and since Starving Venom gives all his monsters piercing battle damage, and Odd Eyes doubles battle damage with Pendulum monsters,
Man.
Reggie takes double piercing damage.
Only 200
Last,
left?
but certainly not
Not good.
least, Zarc orders Supreme King Dragon Zarc to attack Schrodinger for game. Schrodinger is destroyed, and the double piercing battle damage eliminates Reggie. Is
So,
this
one
the
more.
End of the world? Reggie was our last hope.
Ray.
No, we have one final defense. Rayra, who is currently possessed by Ray. It's Ray's turn, and she
The worst
draws.
character in the
Her
show.
opening hand consists of Life Transformation, CC Critical Eye, Film Magician, Montage Fusion, Nightmare Critical Loop, and Photo Frame. Right off the bat, she activates Life Transformation. This lets her send her entire hand to the grave, a minimum of 4 cards, and then target 4 spells in any graveyard and set them on her field. She discards her entire hand and then sets the 4 cards Leo Akaba wanted to play. End Birds, End Flowers, End Moon, and End Winds. And here is where Ray begins the undoing of Zarc's infinite protections. Ray activates End Flowers, followed by End Birds. End Birds can only be activated if there are 3 or more Xyz monsters in any graveyard or banished zone.
And how many are there?
End Flowers
There's
is face upon the
6.
field. Now, Xyz monsters on the field, in the grave, and the banished zone become normal monsters with no effects. Dark Rebellion and Zarc are no longer Xyz monsters, along with all the Xyz monsters in Ray's Grey and Banished zone. Next, Ray activates End Winds. Since there are 3 or more synchro monsters in the grave
How many
or banished,
synchros
while
are?
End Flowers is on the field, all synchro monsters on the field, in the grave
5.
and banished
Ooh.
become normal monsters with no effect. Clearwing and Zarc are no longer synchro monsters, along with all the synchros in Ray's grave. Next, Ray activates End Moon. Since there are 3 or more fusion monsters in the grave or
4
banished, while End
fusion.
Flowers is on the field.
Nice.
All fusion monsters on the field, in the grave and banished become normal monsters with no effect. Starving Venom and Zarc are no longer fusion monsters, along with all fusions in Ray's grave. Finally, since End Birds, Winds, Moon, and Flowers are all face up on the field, Ray can activate Flowers effect. This card negates the effects of all monsters on the field and then destroys them. And then for each one destroyed and sent to the graveyard, inflicts 600 damage. The 4-dimension dragons, along with Supreme King Dragon Zarc, are destroyed by this effect. However,
That was
since
way
Zarc
too
and
broken,
Odd-Eyes
in my
become
opinion.
monsters, they didn't go to the grave, so Zarc only takes 1800 damage. Here, Yuzu manages to draw out Yuya finally from Zarc. It's Yuya's turn, and the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets Smile Universe.
Oh.
He activates it immediately. Now, Yuya can special summon as many pendulum monsters from his extra deck as possible, but they are treated as normal monsters with no effects. The opponent gains life points equal to the total attack of the summoned monsters. Neither player can normal or special summon other monsters, and monsters cannot attack during the turn this card is activated. Yuya brings back Zarc and Supreme King Odd-Eyes. Ray gains 6,500 life points.
Jeez.
Yuya has a little bit of a Marek moment here, but controls himself enough to simply end his turn. I mean, it's not like he could have attacked anyway. His card made it so that he couldn't attack, so there's nothing really he could have done, so regardless. It's Ray's turn, and the final turn of the
About
duel.
time.
She draws and gets a mysterious card. She activates the effect of End Flowers again. Zarc and Odd-Eyes are destroyed and sent to the graveyard since they were treated as normal monsters by Smile Universe. Zarc/Yuya loses the duel. And oh my god, that is the longest duel I think I have ever done.
That is
took
definitely
me
one
1
of
hour and 30 minutes to do that.
That is
from talking,
100%
mistakes and everything. I don't know how
longest
long
duel.
this video is going to be, but
Well, it's almost an
God,
hour.
This was a long time. Please subscribe to the channel or give this video a like because
Links in the
that
description
was
as well
nuts
if
how
you want to
expensive
subscribe to
that was.
him.
To simplify this duel, it was very scripted. There was very little room for alternative plays throughout the entire thing.
Except for
People on
Alistair,
cards
he
that
could
were
have
just gonna do
done
their
something
certain
different.
plays and stuff. Zarc, it was insane the amount of protect. Literally, it was an impossible duel to win unless they had those Deus Ex Machina end cards. Other than that,
Agreed.
they literally would have had to have probably bounced all of the cards in the graveyard back into the deck.
I don't
along
think
with the
that
banished
card
cards, which would
existed
be
yet.
really hard. I guess a Kaiju would be the only way really to deal with Zarc, and even then I'm not too sure, since it's something that would remove it from the field. I assume you probably can't tribute over it, but that's probably the only way they could have done with it, but I don't think a single person plays any Kaijus in the entire
No.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 franchise.
In fact,
While I
no
will
Yu-Gi-Oh
say
character uses
that the duel is
kaijus.
cool in some aspects, and Zarc is a pretty boss monster. Sometimes there's such thing as too many protections, which I know is kind of the theme of this duel. Zarc is so afraid of losing, he's like cocooned himself in all these protection, and everyone starts making fun of him. He's like, you're so afraid of losing, what's wrong with you? So I guess that's part of the theme of the duel, so I think it's fine. Check out one of these 2 videos if you fancy, buy the merch if you fancy, or most important, subscribe to the channel. It'd mean a lot. Thank you all for watching. Catch you later.
And that's the end of this. Man, actually, it wasn't almost an hour. It was a little over 50 minutes, but this video is actually getting closer to an hour compared to this one. But oh man, this was definitely a very, very long duel. And oh my gosh, Zarc is still, in my opinion, one of the worst main villains in the entire show. In fact, I don't know. Like, to me, Zarc is definitely one of the worst main villains. Like, was there a worse one? I can't remember what my exact ranking. But still, like, I don't know. Just man, this show was definitely interesting. That's for sure. I really do like Sevens and Go Rush. I still need to catch up on Go Rush, but still, like, I'm excited to see what happens next. But thank you all for watching this. Until then, I'll see you whatever I post next. Bye, guys.